Welcome to Review Set Scare with Jess and Blair. I'm Jess.
I'm Blair.
Blair, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Yourself?
I am doing very well. It is the first episode of October, the greatest month of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We have not talked much, if all, about this month's category or theme. We didn't do our usual Wheel of Fate selection show as we wanted to be a bit more particular about this month. We wanted to do something special for October, and we thought, what better way to do the month than taking it back to the classics?
Yes, sir.
So for this month, we will be diving into the world of the Universal Monster movie classics. But before we dive into the very first episode, what do you say we chat a little bit about some horror news? Blairski, what do you got?
I got two things. First off, finally, it's here. The Exorcist Believer comes out next weekend. Me and you have our tickets already, and I am so stoked for it.
I can't wait. I haven't been this excited for a horror movie in quite some time.
It feels like everything's happening really fast. I feel like not too long ago, we were talking about the releases of all these movies coming out.
Yeah.
Saw 10's already out. We've already seen it.
Yeah.
Exorcist Believer is next week. We will be seeing it on Friday night, I believe.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, we've got the new Hell House movie. We've got Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah.
The new Eli Roth Thanksgiving movies coming out.
Which we saw the trailer before Saw 10,
Yeah.
and it looks great.
That was the first time you've seen that trailer, right?
Yeah, it was. And I am I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, so I'm very excited for that as well, and Exorcist Believer next week. Super stoked for it. I hope it doesn't let us down.
It won't. It won't. I hope not.
My next and last piece of horror news is the Halloween franchise is being shopped around Hollywood.
Yes,
Michael
it is.
Myers may not truly be dead. So some of the companies in the bidding are A24.
Yeah.
I think Lionsgate's in there, Paramount. So we'll see what happens to the Halloween franchise, but it is being shopped around right now.
We've talked about it numerous times that we're big A24 fans.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed that A24 touches this. But apparently it's they're looking for a TV series, correct?
Yeah, like similar to the new Camp Crystal Lake one coming out,
Camp Crystal Lake.
Chucky one, which is already in its third season, something like that. So,
I believe the Camp Crystal Lake one is an A24 produced television show as well. A24.
All I've seen is that's going to be on Peacock, which we don't get in Canada. So I'm pretty upset about that.
We'll figure out how to watch it somehow.
So yeah, that's all I got for horror news, though, man.
I've got a couple here. Saw 10 had quite a successful Thursday night opening as the 10th installment in the Saw franchise took in an estimated $2 million.
One night.
Not a bad way to start off the weekend. Blair and I saw this movie yesterday, and it was pretty quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, the theater is empty, but we did enjoy the movie. We just released an episode last night at this point. At the time this episode releases, our Saw 10 episode will already be out. So definitely check that out. But we enjoyed the movie.
And listen to that. Yeah. Absolutely. Second piece of horror news I have: The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, everyone's favorite horror movie marathon show, will officially be coming back for a 6th season. The show, of course, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs and co-hosted by Darcy the Mail Girl, is going all out this season, as it will include over 30 films.
Yeah, I read that it's going to be an extended season for sure.
Yeah.
I also read this month, one of the Joe Bob Halloween specials they're doing is the original Halloween. Yeah,
it is I'm trying to remember, 40th anniversary?
The 40th or 50th. I thought it was 45th, 45.
It might be. I think you're right. 45th. So yeah, they're doing the big 45th anniversary Joe Bob Briggs Halloween special. Doing John Carpenter's Halloween. I'm excited to watch that one.
I'll be checking it out as long as I'm not, stuck at work or something. I'll definitely be checking it out.
Absolutely. No news on the premiere date for season 6, but something really fun to look forward to. Finally, the long-awaited and much anticipated 4th season of HBO's crime show True Detective finally has a release date. It's been a while since we've seen anything from True Detective. Season 1 came out in 2014, season 2 2015, and then season 3 was 2019. But finally, we have a release date accompanied by a new trailer. Season 4, called True Detective Night Country, will premiere January 14th, 2024 on HBO Max. This season, of course, starring Foster.
No, Jesse, what did you just say there? You cut out, my friend.
Oh, no. This season, starring the legendary Jodie Foster.
Oh, really? Right on.
Yeah. Really excited for this one. Season 1 is great. Season 3 is great. Season 2 is forgettable. So season 4,
I haven't seen any season or a single episode, to be honest, man.
Oh, you got to watch, at least watch season 1. It was fantastic.
Okay, I'm not even familiar with the show, to be honest with you.
Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson in season 1. Very good.
Love
season 2 was Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
And then season 3 was Mahershala Ali, and he was fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all I have for fun facts. What do you say we dive into this week's episode? The first episode of Universal Monster Movie Month. This episode, we will be reviewing the 1954 classic, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Runtime on this one, 1 hour, 19 minutes. Blairski, initial thoughts on the runtime?
Why isn't every movie that long?
This is perfect. Hour and 19, they get in, they get out.
Right?
Yeah, I thought it was perfect runtime. Fun facts for this one. Do you have any fun facts for Creature?
You originally told me this one, but this film was originally presented in 3D, which I think is absolutely wild for 1954. But
way ahead of its time.
Super cool.
There's a lot of things from this movie that immediately make you think, whoa, this is way ahead of its time.
Oh, I 100% agree, including the costume. We'll get there, but
we'll get there for sure. Yeah.
Including the costume. Next piece of horror news is 2 actors actually played the creature. Raku Browning played the creature in all the underwater scenes.
Yeah.
While Ben Chapman played the actor in the suit above ground. A majority of the scenes are underwater, I believe, though.
Yeah, a lot of them that we see there, at least the creature in. Well, no, most of the movie is underwater. Yeah,
to be honest.
I have a little fun fact about Raku Browning, the guy who played the creature underwater. He basically created the character of Flipper the dolphin.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was pretty neat.
That's pretty wild, man. My last fun fact for this movie is the creature. He was designed after the Academy Award.
Yeah, I saw that. How cool is that?
Yeah, pretty cool, man. Like just the shape of the creature, his features were designed from the trophy, like the Academy Award.
Yeah, the end product is a little bit different. It's a little less gold.
100%.
But yeah, I've got a few here. The name of the designer of the creature was Millicent Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
She was largely written out of the history books and even fired by Universal Studios, some say due to jealousy from others, due to the attention she got for designing this excellent creature. Up until recently, Bud Westmore, head of Universal makeup department at the time, took credit. There's a really excellent book that came out in 2019, I believe, called The Lady from the Black Lagoon, and it's all about her. Highly recommend reading it. She needs to get her props because this is iconic.
Apparently those two, the guy who basically got the credit for it and her, they had a big feud back when this was being filmed. So
yeah.
Wild stuff, man.
A couple other, we just are coming off Stephen King month, and I thought this was really cool. This is the first film that Stephen King remembers watching.
Right
which
on.
is kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
I thought so.
That's definitely a fun fact. If I remember the fun fact.
And then finally, according to the Universal Press Department, the creature suit was valued at $18,000.
When? At the
Now,
time?
I'm thinking that is at the time. Now, I didn't do the inflation, but I imagine $18,000 in 1954 equals to a lot of money.
I would totally agree to that.
I'm curious what happened to the costume. I didn't find any notes of where it ended up, but that would be quite a cool piece of horror movie memorabilia to have.
Man, unfortunately, with all the big produced movies, like Universal Studios, for example, everything gets scrapped after, man. Just gets scrapped.
Well, it maybe doesn't reach icon status till years and years later, right?
Yeah.
So they don't realize that they're sitting on something really, really special until it's gone. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I have for fun facts. What do you say we dive into the fine people who made this movie? Directed by Jack Arnold, also directed 1957's The Incredible Shrinking Man, 1953's It Came from Outer Space, 1955's Tarantula, and 26 episodes of the iconic television series Gilligan's Island.
Isn't It Came from Outer Space what It, or not? No, not It. The Thing is based off of?
I think you might be right.
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure The Thing, like John Carpenter's The Thing, is based on that movie.
We'll need to fact check, but I think you're right. And it's kind of, 1953, that sounds about right. That would be excellent.
No kidding.
And to top that, he also did 15 episodes of The Brady Bunch. This one, written by Harry Essex, also wrote 1950's The Killer That Stalked New York, 1947's Dragnet, 1952's Kansas City Confidential, 1953's It Came from Outer Space, and 1953's I, The Jury. Also written by Arthur A. Ross, also wrote 1959's The 30-Foot Bride of Can-Do Rock. I believe it was actually Candy Rock. That was a misspelling on my end. 1956's The Creature Walks Among Us. 1965's The Great Race, and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Screenplay for 1981's Brubaker. He lost to Melvin and Howard, a movie I have never seen.
Never even heard of it.
And then finally, written by Maurice Zim, also wrote 1953's Jeopardy, 1959's Good Day for a Hanging, and 8 episodes of the hit TV series Perry Mason. I love that all of these writers, directors worked on kind of early stage science fiction movies.
For sure.
I love it. Yeah. Clearly, 1950s America especially was going through a bit of a craze with aliens, and I love it. I love it so much. This one, starring Richard Carlson as Dr. David Reed, also starred in 1948's The Amazing Mr. X, 1943's A Stranger in Town, 1941's The Little Foxes, and 39 episodes of Mackenzie's Raiders. Also starring Julie Adams as Kay Lawrence, who starred in 24 episodes of The Jimmy Stewart Show. Jimmy Stewart. 1951's Bright Victory, 1953's The Mississippi Gambler, and in 10 episodes of one of my dad's favorites, Murder, She Wrote, starring Angela Lansbury.
One of my mom's favorites as well. I swear my mom and your dad would be best friends.
I think so, yeah. Richard Denning as Dr. Mark Williams, also starred in 1955's Creature with the Atom Brain, 74 episodes of Hawaii Five-0, and as Hank Scott in 1957's The Black Scorpion. And then, as we had mentioned, Rico Browning as the creature underwater, also wrote 33 episodes of Blair's favorite dolphin-based TV show, Flipper.
I knew you were going somewhere with Flipper.
I had to. And of course, like I had mentioned, basically created the character of Flipper.
Yeah.
And then finally, Ben Chapman as the creature on land, also starred in 1955's Jungle Moon Man. All of these movies sound absolutely brilliant, and I want to watch all of them.
Yeah, no kidding.
Give me more 1950s science fiction movies.
Just by the names alone, eh?
Yeah. Synopsis for 1954's Creature from the Black Lagoon, courtesy of our dear friends at IMDb. A strange prehistoric beast lurks in the depths of the Amazonian jungle. A group of scientists try to capture the animal and bring it back to civilization to study. Yeah,
That's what happens,
it's
technically.
yeah,
Kind
a
of boring.
bit of a boring
Yeah, kind of
synopsis.
boring.
Bit of a boring synopsis. Whatever. This leads to one of our favorite segments of the show, Kill Count.
Kill count. The time of the show we count the kills.
Blairski, I know it's a tricky one, but did you find a kill count for this one?
It was a tricky one, but not a big one. The total kill count in this movie is 3. But I mean, for 1954, when you add interest, it's like 30 kills in today's movies.
Yeah, exactly. Adding interest. Yeah. Let's move right along to likes and dislikes. Of course, the portion of the show where we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything in between. And I want to feed off of that because it's 1954. Yeah. There's 3 kills. And I just want to remind anyone who's seen this movie, or for those of you who haven't seen this movie has a rating of G.
Yeah. General audience.
General audience. This one is welcome for everyone. And I've seen this movie a couple times, and I kept reminding myself, man, how did it get a G rating? It's definitely not an R rating. It's definitely not even an 18A rating. I don't even know if it's a 14A rating, but a G rating. I don't even know if Toy Story had a G rating. Just wild. I thought that was really something else.
And especially out of those 3 kills, 2 of them take place in a tent.
Yeah.
Right. And I just want to also say that that whole tent scene reminded me of the Friday the 13th tent scene.
Absolutely.
Did it not?
Absolutely.
I'm curious if Friday the 13th, when they made that scene, got somewhat inspired from that, because it's very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's chat about the legendary creature suit.
Yes, let's.
The costume, and we'll talk about the other costumes later on because it's the 1950s and they make everything look really, really elegant. But this creature costume, it is so incredibly fantastic.
Especially for the time, man. Especially for the time.
Way ahead of the time. And just the way the creature moves and the way the gills move, the breathing was so cool. Also, Carly mentioned this to me when we were watching it. The way the creature moves underwater is so unhuman-like.
Bro, I have all of this written down. Like the exact same shit. Like the way it moves, especially the hands, how the hand comes up out of the water. Yeah. And kind of moves back and forth with the webbing. It just looks so cool. And especially how the creature swims. It is so good, man.
And I was trying to place it, but it's so fish-like.
Yeah, it very much
just
is.
The way it's kicking its legs. Obviously, fish don't have legs, but just the way it's kicking and the way it's moving and twirling, and it's just it is so unhuman-like. I love it though, because it's clearly something that Rico Browning, the guy who did the creature underwater, worked a lot on, apparently, because it looks great.
Let's hope Rico's not drowning. Come on.
I sure hope not.
Back on that though, his swimming, that one scene when he's swimming underneath Julie Adams, and just looking up at her as she's swimming, normally up at the top. Yeah, one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
He's almost mirroring her movements in the water. Yeah. And not only that, there's a scene briefly after where she's I guess not standing, she's floating in the water and she's kicking her legs, and the creature is just moving its hand and it's moving and pulling away, and it was just like, the tension in those scenes alone were so great.
Right.
And not only that, but the music on top of those scenes especially was so fantastic. It was so fantastic.
I have that written down. Absolutely loved the score. It was so good. It was old. It was old. It was dated, but it went with the movie, and I loved it. I don't know, just something about all the music in this movie I just loved, man.
It kind of goes hand in hand with the acting, where it maybe seems a bit dated, but I think what it is it's just very dramatic and it's very theatrical. Where I figure 1950s, a lot of the, we have actors nowadays who have never been on stage.
Right.
They're strictly movie, TV. But back in those days, 1950s, 1940s, 1930s, most of them, if not all of them, got their start on stage.
Yeah.
So those performances, they seem a bit over the top and a bit cheesy and a bit hammy, but it's just, I love it. I personally love the early era of film. I love the performances. I wouldn't even say they're over the top. They're just, they're dramatic. They're theatrical. I love it. And the music is very, sorry, I digressed, but I felt like the music was also very dramatic and very theatrical.
It really was. And it was what I would expect from not only just watching a movie from 1950s, but just like a black and white movie. Like it had that soundtrack that I was hoping it would have, and I loved it, man. I really did.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever seen this movie. To be honest, this whole month of Universal Monsters, I haven't seen any of them.
I'm so excited. I'm a little bit worried just because clearly, I mean, Creature is going to be, I believe,
the newest one, the newest
film, and there's some that were early 30s, so that that is a big jump. But we constantly tell ourselves, be in that mindset of, okay, this movie came out in this year.
Yeah.
This is what was going on in the world around that time.
Yeah.
This is where people were watching this movie. It's just putting yourself in the audience view or in the audience shoes back then. I feel like you'll enjoy it so much more if you just, you put it into perspective.
Oh, 100%. And I try to do that, especially when I watch older movies like this.
Absolutely. What did you think? We had mentioned briefly that most of this film is shot underwater.
Yes.
What did you think of those underwater shots?
Love the underwater shots. I don't really know how they did it. I didn't realize they had waterproof cameras back in 1954, like
I don't get it. I just noticed out of the corner of my eye, you're playing it on the TV behind you, and
I got it as a background.
To me, it just seems so primitive.
Yeah.
It was much like that idea of the 3D. It's like, oh, this must have been like one of the first movies that was shot largely underwater. And it's
you would
just
think
like,
so, right? Yeah.
The logistics that go into that, like I said, it just feels so primitive. Not only the swimming underwater would have been, so it would have been so much work, but there is a really excellent fight scene that happens underwater.
Man, you're literally reading off my notes how I have them. I have really cool underwater shots, and right below it, I have awesome underwater fight scene.
It was so good, and it didn't feel like there was obviously. I felt like it was maybe a bit hard to see what was all going on, especially in that fight scene. But again, being shot in 1954. One of your characters is wearing a giant breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
The other character is wearing a massive creature costume. It turned out really excellent.
Yeah, it was really good, man.
It just seems so natural. Like, again, I'm going back to the creature, but every movement of the creature in the water didn't feel unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like this was a living, breathing creature. It didn't feel like it was somebody in a suit making, hard movements. They couldn't move in this costume. No, it seemed like the costume was super functional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I still can't believe it was rated G.
I know.
I know we've mentioned the costume for the creature, but I just want to mention briefly the 1950s glam, where especially with Kay Lawrence, every scene she is in, she's wearing a different costume. Everyone looks so fancy and so elegant and so cool.
I know. I
It's
wish
like,
people
oh,
still dress like that, you
I
know?
know. Hey, even when they're dressing down, they're dressing up. The
Yeah.
1950s style, just
It's so
simply
good.
fantastic. Oh,
You
um,
Jesse, you mentioned the runtime for this movie, which was
yeah,
great.
yeah.
But because of that runtime, I found this movie went super fast.
Yeah.
The very first scene, they're finding the hand.
Yeah.
Which I also got to say is there's a scene shortly after they find the hand where they prop it up on
Hmm.
display, and
Yeah.
it totally gave me Talk to Me vibes. It
Absolutely.
was just like the hand from Talk to Me, how they had it propped up, just like the exact same stance as Talk to Me.
The
Which makes me also
scientists,
wonder if they got some inspiration from that. Who knows?
very good point. I also thought that it was really funny, the scientists in that scene,
Yeah.
because they just found this million-plus-year-old creature hand, and nobody's wearing gloves, and they're all just touching this thing. And it's like,
No one's being careful.
no, it's very like the Indiana Jones approach to
Yeah.
archaeology, where it's like, well, I'm going to destroy a million things, but I'm going to get my hands on the one thing I'm actually after, you know?
Also
Uh,
kind of reminded me a bit of the beginning of Jurassic Park, the whole archaeology, the findings of, bones and that whole aspect had a lot
the
of Jurassic
digs,
Park
or
vibes
even
to me. Yeah.
even The Exorcist as well.
Yeah, right. The beginning of The Exorcist. Yeah, for sure.
You had mentioned, I mean, with that runtime, 1 hour 19, it does fly by. I noticed the ending as well. This is one of the dislikes I have on this one. I feel like the movie just ends. Um, and I don't know if it could have
Yeah.
gone on any longer. There is a sequel to this one,
There's two
I
sequels
believe.
to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this one, I feel like it just kind of ends.
Well, it also begins that way. So when it begins abruptly, it ends abruptly.
Ends abruptly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, while it's going on, the middle, the meat and potatoes,
Yeah. Yeah.
chef's kiss.
Right on, right?
Um, Honestly, if you're expecting to go into a movie hoping to be scared to death or
You
to
won't be.
have nightmares, this is maybe not the movie to watch. But again, it's all perspective.
In the 50s, it would have been the movie to watch. I guarantee that.
We had never, I feel like everywhere we look, every, montage of horror movies we see nowadays, we always see that iconic creature. So
Right.
we've seen it so many times, whereas like that would have been the first time people were seeing this thing.
Right.
It could have left you with nightmares. It makes me interested to see how or what people think of movies we're watching now and being scared of
In the future.
40 years, 50 years plus. It'll be interesting.
Who knows? Then who knows? Maybe it will just be like realistic experiences. It's not even a movie anymore.
Yeah,
It's like an experience, right? Like who
exactly.
knows?
Yeah. I think that is all I have for likes and dislikes. Do you have anything else, Blairski?
Well, I've talked about a lot of my likes. I just have like two dislikes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenes where you can very well tell it's just actors in front of a green screen.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can literally see that green screen. Like it's just, I mean, it is again 1954, whatever.
1950s, nothing is shot on location.
You're not going to pick it
up.
Yeah, you're not going to pick it apart in the 50s for sure. You're not. But
Yeah.
now I noticed it. And with that, they're supposed to be like slowly cruising down the Amazon River.
Yeah.
And anytime it showed a close-up scene of the actors with that green screen in the background, it looked like they were just ripping down the Amazon River. Like that backdrop was just flying by. I wouldn't call it maybe a dislike, but it's just definitely something I noticed.
That's where that's what I love so much about early film, and by early film, 1950s and anything, basically black and white. There's so much to me. There's so much charm.
There is a lot of charm into the filmmaking process of it, right?
Totally. And that's kind of like the old Hollywood. I love that old Hollywood where it's like they're still, figuring out how to make these movies and what works best. And I just love that about, I love the whole movie making process. I love that.
Me too, man. I wish we could do it. I wish I knew.
I know. How. If anyone's working on a movie and wants us to help, we would love to help. And I'll sweep a floor.
100%, man. I'll wrap up the cords.
I've got no problem with that. What do you say we move this right along? I think
Yeah,
we've
for
been
sure.
babbling enough.
For sure.
This leads to one of our favorite segments, Lessons We Learned from Watching 1954's Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Lessons we learned from watching. Insert title of movie here.
The segment of the show where we talk about the valuable life lessons we learned from watching said movie. Blairski, did you learn anything?
One thing, and that is that they sure loved smoking in the 1950s.
They certainly did. It made you look a whole lot cooler.
It sure did. Man, so many scenes, just everyone's lighting a cigarette, man. There's so much smoking in this movie.
And around oxygen tanks and everything that. Underwater
like,
oxygen tanks.
No fucks given, excuse my language.
No, can't be bothered. Oh, goodness. I've got a couple here. Now, I don't know if these are fact or fiction. I think most of them are fiction for sure. But the Amazonian rat is as big as a sheep.
Yeah.
I also have the Amazonian anteater is as big as a bear. I also learned that spear guns are easy to use. You just aim and squeeze.
Don't have to load it or anything.
Yeah. I have here the uranium lead test is a test used to date how old a rock is. And then finally, I have the Comongo fish can breathe air.
Is that even a real thing?
It is. Yeah. I looked it up and it is a type of lungfish, and lungfish can breathe air.
Wild,
how wild is that? I think as long as they are moist or damp, they can breathe air, which is pretty unreal.
That's wild, man.
Evolution. This leads to our next segment of the night, one of our favorites, Line of the Night.
Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night.
The segment of the show where we discuss our favorite lines from the movie. They might give us chills. They might give us the giggles. All we know is that they are our favorites. Blairski, do you have any favorite lines from this one?
I've got two. The first is when the character Lucas says, I can tell you something about this place. The boys around here call it the Black Lagoon, a paradise. Only they say nobody has ever come back to prove it.
Cool.
Which I thought was pretty awesome.
Really cool.
The last line of the night is when the character David says, we didn't come here to fight monsters. We're not equipped for it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, once they kind of figure out what they're dealing with. I loved it.
Yeah. I've got two lines here. First one, Kay, she says, I thought the Mississippi was something. To which David responds, it's a winding brook compared to the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
True that, man.
And then finally, David, when he says, the unknown always seems unbelievable.
True that too, man.
No wiser words were said in this movie. Dr. David. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, no kidding.
Finally, this brings us to our favorite segment of the night, Celebrity Lookalike Time.
Celebrity Lookalike Time.
The time of the show where we take a look at the cast and discuss their celebrity doppelgangers. Spoiler alert, it usually comes down to the character's hairstyle. Blairski, got any celebrity lookalikes?
I got two, but it's the same character.
Okay.
So the character Carl, he reminded me of both Colonel Saunders,
okay,
Mr. KFC himself, and he also reminded me a lot of Billy Bob Thornton.
Okay. Those are good.
That's it. That's all I got. But yeah, I thought they were pretty accurate.
Mr. Finger Lickin' and Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, Mr. Bad Santa himself.
Yeah, I've got two here. The character K reminded me a lot of comedic legend Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah.
But also I was like Elizabeth Taylor. But then I was like, The 1950s glam actress, they kind of had a look. The hair, the makeup, is very glamorous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then finally, Captain Lucas reminded me of the character Tuco, aka the Ugly in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's great. I was trying to think of something for that guy, but I just couldn't.
Yeah, right away I was like, oh, he looks just like the Ugly.
That's a great one, man.
I loved it. This leads us to our final rating for 1954's Creature from the Black Lagoon. Blairski, out of 5 early morning dips in an Amazonian lagoon wearing the latest aquatic fashion, the aqua lung, what do you give 1954's Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Man, I like this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Awesome.
I'm giving this movie 3 early morning dips in an Amazonian lagoon wearing the latest aquatic fashion, the aqua lung, out of 5.
Fantastic. I'm glad you liked it. I love this movie. I am giving it 4 early morning dips in an Amazonian lagoon wearing the latest aquatic fashion, the aqua lung, out of 5. I love the universal classic.
I know you do, man.
movies.
I'm expecting you to rate all these movies pretty high, but
I've been waiting for this month for quite some time, and I honestly I love that we started off with Creature from the Black Lagoon. It is the perfect movie to start the month off with.
I'm always iffy. I know all these old movies have so much, history and importance to the horror genre.
Absolutely.
But being so old and I've never seen them, I'm always kind of worried how I'm going to react watching it. Like, how bored am I going to be bored? Yeah. So I'm kind of nervous about the rest of the month, but excited at the same time.
No, you're in for a treat, honestly. And it's one of those things where your hopes are set a little low, or your standards are set a little low, and then you're pleasantly surprised, hopefully.
Well, that was the case with this movie. I did thoroughly enjoy it.
Awesome. And that's why we do these reviews. We're not going to like all of them. Sometime we're really going to dislike a movie. Yeah. And sometimes we're going to really like it. So I am looking forward to the rest of this month. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun one, but only time will tell.
Yeah. We'll see.
But for Review Set Scare with Jess and Blair, I'm Jess.
I'm Blair. Remember to stay scary.
And heed every sandwich.
Oh, your face. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Review Set Scare. Make sure you check out our Linktree at linktree/reviewsetscare. That's linktr.ee/reviewsetscare, which has links to our Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, and many other things. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at reviewsetscare@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to stay scary and eat every sandwich. A proud member of Pod Nation TV.